Welcome back to Joe's Toolbox Exchange. Today we're going to do another box review. It's one that we don't get very often, and I'm not sure why. If I was purchasing a box brand new, it would probably be one of the boxes I consider the most, and that is going to be a KMP1033. We're going to mention a couple other boxes in this videos, and they are all going to be 1023s. So that box next to us, that cranberry one, is going to be a KMP1023. This blue box we'll show at the end is going to be a KTL1023. And then the box all the way down on the end is going to be a KRL1023. We'll start off by looking at the KRL1023. This is what people is probably consider most as the Master Series. This is kind of the most iconic of the Master Series. It was produced and still is produced, so it's probably the longest running box of this size. It's very large dimensionally. They are all the same. When you look at these boxes, the KRLs are going to have two top drawers. They're going to have a socket drawer and a wrench drawer, and then you have this split here. And then that's where you have your smaller drawers. That's why it's a 3-bank, because this is 1, 2, and 3. The banks are always defined by how many drawers are on the bottom. So if there's 3 banks or 2 banks, that's why. They do make a box of this size that's a 2-bank. It just doesn't have the center one. We're not going to talk about that box in this video. Also, you can tell just by looking at these boxes that there's no power drawer on these, which is going to be the same with all KRL series. They don't come with the power drawer. And that's where it would be... over here, you'd have these drawers, a larger drawer to accommodate it. So when we look now at what a more, I don't want to say modern, but a newer revision of this box is going to be a KMP1023. It's a very, very similar box, only it has your 3 full-length drawers. So like we said, this beam comes a little bit lower, so you get a third big drawer. The third big drawer is between the dimensions of these top two. It's a little bit smaller than this one, a little bit bigger than this one. And then also your power drawer. So if you guys are shopping for a box, usually you're going to see 4 drawers, sometimes 5, because this top one is split if they did a like a custom box or swapped around drawers with a coworker. But this bank is the same as this. So that's why sometimes you'll see these skinnier ones put over here. But like if you look at these classics, it's the same thing. You see those 4 big drawers on the right side, you know that that box has power just by looking at it. You know this box has power just by looking at it, and you know that this box has power just by looking at it. This box is going to be most different, obviously, because of these 2 top length drawers. This is the biggest drawer that you can get in a Snap-on box. I know this sounds strange because they make an 84-inch Epic, but an 84-inch Epic is actually built on the 60-inch Epic platform, so it's going to be a 60-inch Epic with an additional third bank, and that third bank is where your extra 24 inches come from. So the top drawer is actually significantly smaller than this. I wish we had one in here to show. We had one a couple weeks ago, it's gone. But the 68-inch Epic is also a smaller top drawer because it's 5 inches less long than this box. And then like with your 1023 models, the drawers don't come all the way through. So if you want a box with a big drawer, this is it. These boxes we get not as often as you would think. I think we've maybe only ever had like a dozen of these, where with the models like this, we've probably had 100 of them. Extremely, extremely common boxes. And the MSRP on these is the exact same. Both of these boxes are going to be $16,205, and that's with no top on it. So it's $16,205 for this box or the KMP1023. There's a little bit of a price difference when you start losing the power drawer and changing out the drawer configurations. So like this box behind us looks exactly like this cranberry one here, only it doesn't have a power drawer, so it has more drawers on the right side. And that's going to be a KTL1023. And that box is $15,470. And then like we looked at that midnight blue box down on the end, that Master Series, that box is $15,267. So you're paying about an extra $1,000 for this box compared to a KRL, but you do get some additional features. You get those 2 huge top drawers, you get a power drawer, you get a speed drawer, and I think overall, a lot of times they have holster racks in them. This one does not. Sometimes they're removed. They look like this if you want to show that. We've seen this in some other videos. It's pretty common with the power boxes to have this bottom drawer have this in here. Usually it comes like that, but a lot of times they are removed. With a box this big, a lot of guys are just storing their power tools in a drawer like this. This drawer works perfectly for it, same as that model there, that third big drawer. You can put all your impacts on side, lay them down. There's not really a need to use an entire drawer like this for the impact guns. So you will see a lot of people remove them and get rid of them. So by the time they hit the used market, they are gone, or if they are there, they're missing a lot of those cups because people removed them to, store other things. That drawer works great for like storing cans, big blow mold cases standing up on end. So you will see that drawer removed. If you just want to show how big it is, that is a absolutely huge drawer. It's one of the deepest. I think it might even be the deepest you can get on a box. It's a lot of storage for such a, it's on double sets of slides too, so that can hold a lot of weight, and that's why a lot of times you see that, that rack removed, just because you can sometimes better utilize that space. I don't know why, like I've said a couple of times, I don't know why these aren't more common. I would say the only reason I would say if you're shopping between these two where it might matter to you is the drawer weight rating, because the Snap-on Master Series are all going to have, well, the 29-inch deep Master Series are all going to have the same weight rating. And even the 24-inch, they still have that same weight rating, which is 227. So they have 227 pounds per set of slides. So this top drawer is going to be, 550 pounds, where this top drawer is also 550 pounds. So I don't know if you're maxing out that weight rating. And I'm sorry, it's 227, so they're like 450. 450 for 460. But 460 pounds in a drawer like this is more than adequate. Although when you start to get some of these bigger drawers, maybe that's a concern. 460, if you had this thing completely lined with sockets all the way down, you probably could overweight rate it, although 460 is a lot of weight. I don't know. I don't really quite see it. I think this would probably hold if you did, butt-to-butt sockets all the way through the entire thing. It would probably still handle the weight fine. Maybe outside, if you were like a diesel tech and all your stuff is big 3/4 inch, thick wall impact sockets or 1-inch drive impact sockets, maybe you'd begin to see an issue with the slides, but I just don't quite think it's there. Although the drawer below it, you are going to see a problem eventually if you just straight stack it, because this is 227 pounds. So that's a really big amount of square inches for 227 pounds. But if you're doing things, laid out in wrench racks, most wrench racks, you're going to see a wrench set, weigh 30 pounds. They're usually not that heavy, so you could fit a lot of wrench sets in here. Especially even standing up because it is so deep. And then you do get that, still got that third full length drawer. That's going to be your speed drawer. It's pretty common on all modern boxes, whether it be a classic series, a master series, or an epic series. Everything outside of the heritage, really, you are going to see that speed drawer. It's kind of a cool addition. Although once again, a lot of people remove these rails. The amount of boxes we buy that the rails are just wrapped up, in plastic wrap or never even removed from the factory wrap, and they're just stuck in the bottom drawer is really common. A lot of guys never even set these up, but I think it's cool. I would find a way to use it if my box had one. This is our box. It does not have one. I wish it did. You can add a kit to it, but I just don't. We bought, these alternatively, and these fit well in there, and they're like magnetic trays that work the same idea. They're a little bit easier to move around. You can get the exact space you want, so we use those instead of the speed drawer. But I think it's a good addition for the price. It's kind of built in. So the dimensions of them are all going to be the same. All 4 of these boxes we've mentioned to this point have a ton of similarities. That's going to be the slides are all the exact same. The price, they're all within $1,000 of each other. And the dimensions, they called them 72s. I don't know why. They're actually 72 and 7/8. So it's really a 73-inch box end to end, not including the handle. From the front to the back of the box to the front of this trim or the front of the drawers is going to be 29 inches. And then from the floor all the way up to this top lip is going to be 46 inches. And that is the same, like I said, for all 4 of them. The weight rating for all 4 boxes is also the same. The gross weight rating for what you can put in them, and that is going to be 6,800 pounds, which is a ton. So all of them have the same weight rating. The weight on them is a little bit different. I think these, they say, are like 880, and these are 920. I've not weighed these, but I don't think that's exactly right. I'm sure that that one actually weighs slightly more. In fact, I'm positive that this one probably weighs 20 or 30 pounds more than this one, because you have a lot of extra slides in here. Which is something to think about. Overall, 900 pounds, though, is an extremely heavy box. The steel gauge on them is all going to be the same, with 16, 18 throughout. Everything structural is 16. Everything like a facade, like a drawer front, is going to be 18. That's the same construction for all 4 of them. The wheels on them are all pretty much the same. These boxes have identical wheels. And the slides are all going to be single slide. I think this one's single slit also, yeah. And this one should also be single. Yeah, so the only ones that are going to have double are going to be this drawer here and your top drawer here, and then this drawer here is also going to be a double slide. And on a box like that, it's pretty similar. You're going to have a double slide on this drawer, a double slide on your bottom drawer, and a double slide here. So it's pretty much the exact same layout for the slides. The cubic inches and square inches are a little bit different between these. This box is going to have more square inches and it's going to have more cubic inches. And the reason for this is because, if you want to come show this here, this is what you're losing by spreading the drawers. You know, you have a decent amount of space here between these that you're not able to store anything, so it cannot be included in the cubic inches or the square inches, but they are still very similar. This box is more. The KMP1033 has square inches 10,245, so 10,250 basically. And then this box here, the cranberry one, is just under 10,000, or just over 10,000. I think it's like 10,020. So you're gaining an extra 200 square inches of storage. That's the amount of space inside of the drawers, the flat space. And then the cubic inches is also a bit higher in this one because, once again, it doesn't have that split. And the cubic inches is not the cubic inches of the box, it's the cubic inches of storage. So that means the actual space inside of the drawer. So even though overall they would take up the same volume, they have, you know, a slightly different amount of storage inside of them because of those two drawers. And that is going to be 46,800 in this one, and then 46,000 in that one. So you get, you know, couple hundred extra square inches and, you know, almost 1,000 cubic inches of storage in this box for the exact same price. You get the same features, and you get, you know, overall, I think it's a little bit easier to sort things when you're not running into walls. I don't really know how to explain that better than you guys already know this, but everything comes in cases, and there's always a little bit of dead space in your box, you know, the edges of your stuff where you don't quite have enough room to fit another tray or another set, but you might have 2 or 3 or 4 inches on the edge between trays that are just wasted space. So the farther out you spread those edges and get rid of those center beams, it just makes it a little bit more conducive to sorting tools. I would buy this box over that box any day. I don't know why. They don't sell better. This box on the used market, though, does sell better than those. And I think it's because of the rarity of them. And also, when people come to buy a box, a lot of times they might come with the intent of, you know, buying, like this box I think will sell for $4,500. That cranberry one I think will sell for $4,500. This one has more room on it than that one. That one has no room. This one's got a few $100s of room in it. So if like one of you guys saw it and came, we'd probably be able to do like 42, 43. I'm not exactly sure what the numbers work out on this one for. But like that blue one on the end is 4,000. So, you know, a lot of times people will come with the intention of buying a KRL series, and then when they see it compared to this, the power drawer, the 2 giant drawers, you know, it is just impressive when you open this thing up. From photos, it doesn't really look that large, but I mean, this box is truly my, you know, my wingspan barely. It touches at drawer to drawer. This is a very massive box. So I think when people see this, a lot of times this sells in person better because they will come for something else and then realize it's only a few $100s more to get a box that is all around more functional, maybe slightly better condition. Something I did notice with this box, I'll point out, I don't see it a lot, although I see it a lot with Matco. I just don't see it a lot with Snap-on, is where this trim starts to discolor. It's probably from floor cleaner in this box, although the paint itself on the box is perfect. You see this like speckling on the orange trim. I don't exactly know what causes this. Some chemicals like brake cleaner will cause it. I'm guessing that's not brake cleaner because of the position on the box. You even see it a little bit here. It looks like splash up probably of a heavy duty floor degreaser that some shops use. You know, they'll hire outside cleaning companies to come in and, you know, get all the oil out of the floor, and that stuff is extremely corrosive. And you will sometimes see it speckling the trim. It's most noticeable on the colored trims. When you do see it, you don't really notice it on the chrome at all because you know, it discolors it, but there's really nothing to discolor. If you look really closely, you know, with the light, you might notice a slight discoloration between the chromes, but on a box like this, it is more noticeable. These trim pieces are, you know, not the most expensive thing to replace, although we will not replace them because ultimately I think someone would rather have $200 or $300 less on the box than have the trim swapped. If you guys want to swap the trim, you know, the price will be $200 to $300 less, and then you can put that money towards replacing these 3 pieces. They're pretty easy. It's just a pop rivet. You drill it, slide it out. If they're damaged, we'll replace them, but with just cosmetic, you know, it's not the worst, so we'll leave it. You can also wrap these square pieces. A lot of people wrap them, so maybe that's what they'll do and they won't even care, so I'm not going to bother replacing it. I think that pretty much wraps up. I guess we'll show that blue box there, which is going to be the 3rd one that we mentioned here. This is going to be a KTL. So it's essentially this box right here. And also, if you want to see more of a KTL or a KRL, we have a comparison between a KTL and the KRL, and we mentioned the specs, you know, cubic inches, square inches, and everything like that. In that video, I don't want to have this video be 20 minutes long and try to explain all 4 of these in super detail. I think the crucial part to realize is that all 4 of these boxes are essentially the same box. It's the same platform, the same weight rating, the same slides, pretty much the same cubic inches, pretty much the same square inches, the exact same build quality, the same steel gauges. Everything about them is the same besides the drawer layouts and whether or not it has a power drawer. So when you're shopping for these boxes, I think it's something important to realize is, do you care if it has power? If it doesn't have power, you can save $500 on a used box, or you can save $1,000 on a new box just by deciding whether or not that's a necessity to you. If you're purchasing a box and you're thinking about the resale of it, I would definitely go with the power drawer because you get most of that money back. These boxes lose a huge amount of their value the second that they roll off of a Snap-on truck or a Matco truck. They lose 60% of 70% of their value on the very first day. But then after that, they are pretty static. And if you're paying an extra $1,000 for a power drawer, it generally increases the value of the box by about $500. So at least you get 50% of that initial investment for that feature back on the box, although you're still going to take a massive beating on the overall sale of it. These boxes are over $16,000 with the exception of the KRL and the KTL, those being around $15,500, but still these are over $16,000 and they're both good condition. There's really nothing wrong with them, and they're still going to sell for around $400 to $4,500 here and in the Midwest. I know they could be different. I get a lot of messages from you guys asking what is my box worth? I'm in New York City. I don't know. The prices do fluctuate heavily. We travel a lot in my personal life and for work, not for this. And when we get there, I like to look at boxes. I'm passionate about these things, so I like to see what does, if you're in, New Mexico or Arizona or California or, New York, what do boxes sell for? And it is shocking the difference on what the prices can be. I think the Midwest is probably, at least Indianapolis, because we're kind of a metropolitan, we kind of have a middle pricing. We're definitely not the most expensive. We're definitely not the cheapest. If you're really rural, like down in Kentucky, these things trade lower. And if you're in somewhere that is, East, West Coast, you're going to be paying quite a bit more on a used box. The list price is always the same though, so it's not really going to affect you if you're buying a new box. But if you're buying a used one, I've seen these go for $6,000 in California, and down in Kentucky, I've seen them trade for as low as $3,000 to $3,500. So we're somewhere between that. I think $4,000 is a good deal on these boxes. If I was shopping for one and I saw one for $4,000, I would buy it in a heartbeat. I don't know if I'd pay $5,000 for one. If it was me and I'm sitting somewhere in a state and they're $6,000 for these boxes, I would spend the time to travel somewhere. Even if it's a 12-hour drive, I would get a hotel and I would figure out how to make that happen to save $2,000 for, essentially a weekend worth of work of just driving. But once again, that's just me. I know a lot of guys don't want to travel very far for boxes. I think between this and an Epic is another thing I'd like to mention. The Epics trade about the exact same as these boxes. So a 68 Epic and a 73 Masters are really the same list price, basically, and basically the same resale price. There is a few $100 or $1,000 on the list, but it's really not significant. $16,000 versus $16,800, they're really the same. I think the 73 Masters I would buy over a 68 Epic, maybe. I don't know, I like the Epics a lot, but also the Master drawer layout I just like. They're also easier to find used, and there's also a variety of them, and they're also very common in many colors, where the Epics, if you're searching for a deal on an Epic, you're really going to have to just buy what's available. You're not going to be able to be picky because there's just not as many of them on the market. But with the Master Series, you kind of can be picky. We sell a ton of Master Series, so if you're looking for a Cranberry or an Arctic Silver or something, we get them in all the time. This is Storm Gray, this is Cranberry, that's Midnight Blue, that one's Midnight Blue, but they're just so common that we get them in all the colors. So I guess the reason that matters to you guys is if you're buying a box used, and obviously if you're buying a box used, you're price conscientious. The likelihood of you going out and buying a locker for $5,000 or $4,000 off the truck is probably not going to happen. And trying to find a locker for an Epic, we just sold a Combat Green Epic. That was really cool. I think that sold a couple days ago. But he asked, are you going to be able to get me a locker or hutch for it? And the reality is no. I'm not going to be able to get you a locker or a hutch for it. It might be years or never unless I see exactly what you're looking for. Whereas a Masters, we do get the hutches and lockers in quite often, especially if they're common colors. All three of these colors are very common. The uncommon colors are going to be more flat black or pink or purple. These colors, yellow. These colors are not very common, but these are. We'll have these boxes in this exact same box again down the road. If you're buying a used locker, it's really not that important for the trim because they only have one piece of trim, so it's cheap and easy to swap. So as long as the base color of the box is the same, you can add those components easily. There's really not a lot else I want to mention. I'll post below a link to our Facebook. Our marketplace is where we sell these. I don't like to ship them, so we sell them locally the most of the time, and that is the best way I found to sell them. But if you want to see more of these pictures, you can, even if maybe you're not shopping for this box, but you want to see, you know, more detail of what that setup looks like, or what a good condition one looks like, you could definitely refer to those pictures. And you can also see the sell prices. So I think I tell people that a lot. If you're thinking about buying a box, you can use that as a reference point to see, okay, he's sold 30 of these boxes and they all listed at $4,500. That's probably the selling price of them. That's probably where you should be at or below. I will say we charge a little bit more probably than you could buy elsewhere. I would say you might be able to find one of these for $4 grand, but it's going to be dirty. It's probably going to need slides replaced. Speaking of that, I don't see a lot of problems with these boxes. To be honest, the slides are the only one, and that's usually in this drawer here because it's a big drawer with a single slide. The rest of them, not really. And a lot of times they'll be missing things like the handles, the top mats, drawer liners, all of this stuff. If you guys are buying a box and it's missing these things, it's expensive to add them. You know, a handle is a couple $100. A set of slides can, or a set of drawer liners can be like $1,000 if you're buying them off the truck. So even though you may get a great deal on a box, let's say you only pay $3, if you want the handle, you know, a lot of these plastic pieces will be missing. If you got to buy new ones of those, they're not expensive. They're like $7 a piece. But when you think about a box having, you know, 12 drawers, I guess that, one more thing. This box here is 12 drawers. A KMP1033 is 12. A KMP1023 is going to be 14 drawers. This KTL1023 behind us is going to be 18 drawers. And a KRL 1023 is going to be 22 drawers. So as you increase the drawers, you're going to get more square inches, but you're going to get less cubic inches because you're going to have more space taken up between the drawers. So that's something to consider too. If you're just looking for a lot of cubic storage, a lot of blow mold cases, the least drawers, the better. If you're looking, you know, a lot of older guys like a ton of skinny drawers, and that is something also to consider. So I appreciate you guys watching. This has probably been, what, 10 days since our last video. It's just been super busy. I think we had 5 boxes come in, 6 boxes between Sunday and today. Today is Monday. Today's Tuesday. I don't even know anymore. Today is Tuesday, so it's about 2 boxes per day coming in and a lot of tools. I just haven't had a chance to make too many videos. But like I said, when we get a box in that's not very common, I do want to make a video of it. I wish these were more common. They are the coolest Master Series in my opinion. So until next time, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you soon.